Donut Bag is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Your data is your business. Protect it with ExpressVPN. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to the link listed in my Twitter profile. AEW Revolution was last night. Boy, it did not run 5 hours. That was good. It was like 4 hours 51 minutes. So
a tight like 451 or
tight,
so.
A tight 451. Welcome back, Kate.
Thank you so much.
I wish there were more AEW pay-per-views so I could have you on more time.
I know. Well, maybe we'll do like St. Patrick's Day Slam or these Battle of the Belts things or whatever, because I love coming on here. So
I wanted to have you on in late December to do like a year in review, but it's like you never know with the holidays or something like that. But oh well, I'm just happy we get to talk whenever it is. So.
I know, I love it too. It's AEW is just so for like a pure pro wrestling fan, such a strong product right now. And before we went on air, we were talking about the fact that like you went to the movie theater and it was like a lot because there was not like a down match on the card, which is what I kept saying yesterday was like, it was a 5-hour pay-per-view and I just don't know what I would have eliminated. Like everything felt like it had a purpose and was important.
Going in, it was such a stacked card. I don't know if I've ever seen a more stacked pay-per-view lineup ever. It's amazing.
They've done, and I felt like for me, All Out was like, I think their best pay-per-view. But there's a lot of people that liked Full Gear. And one thing that they're really, really good about, in my opinion, is every match feeling so different that you don't get burned out because you don't have a ton of the same. And they're normally, I felt like this card was not sequenced as well, but oftentimes I find that the sequencing of their cards, they don't put same matches stylistically back to back either. And that's super helpful to like prevent yourself from getting burned out, because a high energy tag match is so different than an MJF match because he's so much more like plotting and a little bit slower, and Danielson's so technical. So like there's so many different flavors of pro wrestling that A, you're guaranteed to get something you like, and B, like the diversity in their storytelling is so wide that it doesn't make it like that felt, to be honest, to me like not longer really than an episode of Raw, because I felt like it was flying by because it was so good. But then you look up and you're like, oh yeah, it's midnight.
Right. But yeah, not only are there different types of matches, but every single match had a reason to have the match.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't just thrown together at the last minute like certain other companies do. So
and even the ones that were like a little bit more, like I would say like fun leaning, like that Tornado 6-man right before the main event wasn't like the most viscerally told story. Like there wasn't the most intense story there, but like it was so important to have a high energy like palate cleanser before the main event. So even the ones that were like quote unquote throwaways, still I felt like were A, great matches, and B, served a purpose in the card overall.
Yep. So let's start with the buy-in. Usually on like the free time before a pay-per-view, some of the matches are okay, some of them are won't, and this is kind of the same thing. I mean, Layla Hirsch against Chris Tatlander.
Sorry, my little monster's going nuts. No, they're doing work on the apartment next door, and he has something to say.
Okay. Dogs
he
want
also
their
loves
own.
the pay-per-view. He like really wanted to chime in about this buy-in. Yeah, he thought it was so great.
There's a theme, and we'll see what happens with this whole Ring of Honor purchase, but they need something to have extra hours of TV or extra something, because there's too many wrestlers on this roster that are either not being used right or aren't being used at all. And I know Chris Statlander has been hurt, and she has had title chances, but still I think they could do more with her. What do you think of what she did with this Layla Hirsch Chris Statlander thing?
I thought this was the strongest women's match of the night, kind of like fortunately, unfortunately. The women's division has been, in my opinion, their Achilles heel for the most part, and it has grown tremendously, I would say, over the past year, but there's still a ways to go, like you said. I thought as far as the match went, this was so fantastic. Like, I think both Layla and Chris are great. Chris, since returning from her major injury, like, has been on another level. I think she's been one of the best women in ring wise in the division. She's just been so great. I have only great things to say about her. And Layla, what a tiny little badass. I want her on Team Taz so bad. I think she'd be such a fun fit over there. But you're right in that my only concern with AEW has been that the roster is getting bloated, and you don't want to not sign a guy like Cesaro or Claudio on his indie days, or like a Samoa Joe, but like you are realistically getting a
Where do you put
roster.
him?
So the Ring of Honor move to alleviate that and pop that balloon, I think, is so great. I'm a huge Ring of Honor mark, so I was just so excited that the promotion got saved as well. But I just love that the one major concern I had for them, they seem to be alleviating. And you're right, like Chris Tatlander to me feels like a top card talent, but like Chris Tatlander as your Ring of Honor champion feels something that's really cool. I would put Serena Deeb there because what she could do for younger women's talent, I think is so great. And she has history in developmental because she was at NXT as a trainer and with producing matches. So to me, she's like, that should be a Ring of Honor champion. But you're right, and that these women do deserve more recognition, and the men who are just not being featured as much as they should deserve somewhere where they can go and be featured in regular storylines, because the talent level is not the problem right now.
Right. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I just hope they don't do with Ring of Honor what WWE did with ECW. Yeah. I doubt it. I have a feeling that they would, and I heard what CM Punk said, after the show, that he's so happy that it's in good hands now. I'm sure they wouldn't, mess it up, but
I think because so many guys came from there, you kind of can't, like, the generations of talent that are in AEW now have all had a hand in Ring of Honor in some way, from like Danielson and Punk in the really early days to all of the elite coming from Ring of Honor before they started AEW. So I'm confident that they won't, but I understand what you're saying, because it is tough, because you're like, don't change too much about it, I hope. You know what I mean? Like, they were doing a lot of things from a storytelling perspective that were working. Now, if they can get like the production budget behind it, and we'll talk about William Regal later, but I can't imagine he's not going to have some role in developing, because he was at NXT for such a long time and such a fantastic and well-respected figure there. So
right. Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, we thought that Ring of Honor was dead, and now it has risen. Layla Hirsch, for me, they need to do something. I mean, you mentioned she was, mini or whatever, but to me, she's a little too small. I need to see more. I mean, do whatever you want with her, but you need to convince me that she is actually a badass.
I can see that. I think despite her size, well, one, she's tremendously strong. I'd seen her on the indies, in intergender matches, and she was suplexing people that she had no business to be suplexing. And she works small. She's smart for a smaller talent. She targets areas, like she doesn't try to outwork her size, which is something I appreciate. I think you're going to see that inner badass flourish the more that you see her on screen. We're going to get her in Thunder Rosa next week. That's someone a little closer to her own size. She's very tiny, so not totally her own size, but a little bit closer than Stat. But this was a little bit more David and Goliathy, but smaller people, like, look at Danielson, you know what I mean? He can make you believe that he's gonna beat some giant meaty man. So she'll I think get there. She's a hell of a talent.
Okay, you bring that up, so I'll bring it up now. I don't know. I'm gonna just title this, "Is This Inappropriate?" Um, Chris Statlander is kind of big for a woman. And I'm thinking of Jamie Hayter too, is someone that's like a big muscular woman.
Yeah.
Now there's that phrase, two big meaty men slapping meat. Are we allowed to say two big meaty women slapping meat, or is that...
I think, or thick ladies? I'll take that. She is they are built like in a good way, athletically, like brick houses, I think. And it's, for me, a refreshing thing to see on television, because I think you get a lot of kind of more skinny women,
Right.
and you get a lot of the like, holy cow, she's such a powerhouse, or like such a force, and so like overwhelmingly bigger than the rest of the division. So I think somewhere like that's just someone athletically built, like Jamie Hayter, that just looks like they can come and kick your ass, is like a
Right.
really nice representation to have on
Right.
screen. So
Yeah.
give me that collision. I'll take it. Absolutely.
Next was Hook against QT Marshall, and we knew what this was going to be. This is just, Hook kicks someone's butt. That was one of the was that in 2021 when he debuted? You were there.
Yeah, I think so. I got my I went to 5 shows in the area in a very short amount of time, but
Yeah,
I think that was on the tail end of 2021
that
in
was
Long
insane.
Island. Yeah.
But that was one of the coolest moments of 2021. Hook just, we didn't know what to expect. He looked like a 12-year-old little boy in a hoodie, and then he wrestles, and he's built like crazy, and he's just putting on these moves that are amazing. Let's just hey, I'm perfectly okay. Trot him out every week or two and just have him kick someone's butt. I don't care. Let him do his thing.
God, he was a really, really fun surprise. When we were at that show, we were like, wouldn't it be hilarious if Hook was like amazing? And then he was. Like,
remember, it was a meme, it was a joke, like, oh, Cook's gonna kick everybody's butt, and then he did.
And then it's like, holy shit, he really can though. Yeah. Before that, he was like walking around in a hoodie eating chips.
Right.
And then he comes out, and what amazed me, because you can teach someone to do moves, right? How smooth he is in the ring, and his presence are like absurd for someone who is as young in this business as he is. But I guess growing up, seeing it, watching it, being connected to it really, really helped. Right. But yeah, this match is like you called it, like this is exactly what we thought it was going to be. There was no way QT Marshall was going to win here. I think his first rivalry is going to be against Starks for that FTW belt, and I think his dad is going to have a very real proud moment, I think, in that feud.
That was the other cool thing about his debut. He was like unleashed to the world, but Taz was on commentary, so he's like just such a proud papa, and he should be. It was so cool.
Yeah, and you can like hear the sincerity too. It's really nice to see.
Yeah. And then there was House of Black versus Penta, Pac, and Eric Redbeard. Holy cow. I could watch. This is Fight Forever. I could have watched this forever. My goodness. To me, this was just so good. Who's the big guy? I'm forgetting.
Brody King on
Brody
House
King,
of Dark. Yeah, this was to me a little bit of a coming out party for people who didn't know what he could do, but he was a Ring of Honor standout for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, this was just fun. It was fun. And it was also Buddy Matthews' debut, which is really cool, and just
he's so good, man. He's skilled at a lot of things, but bumping is one of them. So some of the spots he took with Redbeard on the other side were so good. I thought Penta was excellent in this. I loved that the first thing he did was to go for Buddy Matthews' eye, because Malachi Black has had this gouged out eye that you received from Buddy Matthews in WWE. And then I guess he says that as he gets stronger, the more of his face turns black, which is just like the coolest, most badass thing I've ever heard. But sometimes 6-man matches can get like a little bit clumsy or hectic. This one, I thought the storytelling was really smooth. The in-ring action was great. It was perfect to put on right before the pay-per-view started, because it was a pay-per-view caliber match that was high energy and got you excited going into it. I thought this match was absolutely gangbusters.
It did what it was supposed to do. It's like, hey, this is the kind of stuff you're going to see on this pay-per-view, so you should buy this pay-per-view. Come on. Pac is another one in the category of deserves better. He's so good. He's in a company full of really good wrestlers. He stands out. They need to do more with him. Come on, do something.
I agree. He and Andrade, I feel like, are two people that have gotten lost in the shuffle that need to very quickly get unstuck. He also Miro's gonna come back in a really big way. I think he's been injured, and hopefully. I think they're gonna pick a hell of a storyline for him to come into. But Pac he was legitimately injured, and he had a lot of visa issues.
Yeah.
So, or I don't even think visa issues. I think travel because of COVID issues, which really made it like a start and stop to his reign. And plus the death triangle we've seen, like Pac was injured, Phoenix is injured now, and at one point Penta was injured. So even as far as the stable, like there's just been some things that have gotten stuck in the mud with him, but his striking ability in the ring is so good. He does everything really, really well. His ability to do top move ropes, but his ground game being so strong makes him such an incredibly unique wrestler. I do hope they find their footing with them soon. I think ROH is going to help, and I really, really hope that we get trios titles because there's so many stables. The tag team division is like overstacked. The fact that I don't see Bear Country on my TV regularly is like kind of shocking because the fact that they're like the 10th best tag team in a company is insane because they're probably a top 20 tag team in the world, but all of the best tag teams, with exception of a few and other places, happen to just be in AEW because their division is so strong and they care about it so much. So I think trios titles would be something that's really helpful. I think trios titles would be beneficial for both House of Black and for Death Triangle. But this match was, I can't say enough about it. So much
trios fun. Tournament would be so much fun.
Agreed. So with what they have fun. There, like, gosh, between LAX, between the situation with the Elite and the Undisputed Era Red Dragon faction, like that's going to become trios soon. House of Black, LAX, like there's so many possibilities there. Jungle Boy and Christian and Luchasaurus could be in it. Like, there's so many possibilities, and because they've earned my trust with storytelling, it's something I really want to see. There's a lot of places that I don't think would do 6-man titles or trios titles as well, because I think it requires an incredible amount of care when you're dealing with like 6 competitors and divisions. You have a division of stables then, and you're going to have people in individual feuds at the same time. It becomes complicated. So take your time, do it right. But I feel like that would also, in addition to the ROH acquisition, help alleviate some of these guys that aren't getting on TV enough.
Yeah. Then we start the pay-per-view, and smart opener, Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston, to me, kind of reminds me of Mick Foley, like this everyman underdog that everyone loves. And I mean, I guess there was some doubt that you know, if Jericho was going to win this or not, and just great. It was just a solid opener, a solid brawl. Loved it.
These guys beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
I did not think this was going to open the card. This was one of the things that I would, there's like 2 matches I didn't think would open it, and this was one of them. But when it did, I was like, Eddie's going over, because there's no way they're going to start on Eddie Kingston, who has become so beloved, losing. Like, his pop is as big as anybody's, except maybe Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole gets bigger pops than Punk at this point. That music hits, and it's insane live. But he is beloved. It's so funny to think that he wasn't someone that was originally signed with the company, because, and that like he can't, when he and Punk were feuding, like there were mixed reactions, which is a very big deal because Punk was still kind of on the wave of this babyface return.
The honeymoon, yeah,
big time. So when he got mixed reactions, I love to see it because they're my 2 favorite promos in wrestling. MJF hangs right there, so this Punk run for me has been incredible because he's doing all my dream matches right up front. But like he is just so cherished by this AEW fan base, and I absolutely love it. So I was like, there's no way he's not going over. I did not think Jericho was going to tap out to him. I think that's a very ego aside moment for Jericho. Like, I think that's so selfless of him to do because he didn't have to. Like, he's so good at putting over people. Like, he did it with Orange Cassidy. Scorpio Sky was the first victory that the first loss that Jericho had. Like, he really it means a lot to him to be able to put other people over, I think. And to tap to Eddie Kingston here, I think was so interesting. And Eddie Kingston's reaction after of like being in disbelief that he actually
You mean I won?
He was utterly stunned. And the whole story to this point has been Kingston can't win on the big stage. Like it was like the perfect round out to the story of like he can't believe he won because he never gets to win the big match.
What is this winning? What do you mean I won? Why are you raising my hand?
Eddie Kingston's all of us with life, man. He's just like can't believe when he actually gets a W there. But great match, a fun opener, the right length of time. I think this is the best Jericho's looked in a while. He's in much better physical shape than he was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And he needed to be because there were some neck and head bumps in this that were rough. Those suplexes were brutal. They beat the hell out of each other. And I know Eddie Kingston's in-ring style isn't for everyone, but I like it because it always looks like he's trying to win a match and he always looks like he's trying to kick your ass. Like that, right. I like that in wrestling instead of, and I don't hate flippy do bullshit like some people, but like that's my preferred thing is when it looks like you're trying to win the match at all times.
Eddie Kingston being surprised that he won is going to be Steeler fans next year. Like, what? We won a game? What is this winning?
Won a game. Yeah, that's sad. That's where we're at right
now. Then there was for the AEW Tag Team Championship, Jurassic Express versus Red Dragon versus Young Bucks. I mean, you knew it was going to be good. You knew they were going to do good stuff. And I thought the story was going to be more that, Red Dragon and Young Bucks hated each other and they were going to, cost each other something. So it's like, okay. I mean, it was good stuff.
I really liked this. I thought this 1-2 punch opening the pay-per-view, I thought was great. The Bucks were on they're always great, but they were on a different level yesterday. All three teams worked such different styles that I think it was very, very fun. Because they're all good at those styles. So that always makes for a fun matchup. I agree with you that I thought it was going to be Red Dragon and the Bucks, more that they were going to cost each other the title. But I did like that Jurassic Express won and that they won clean because I think despite them being champions, they still have this underdog nature to them. So I felt like this really cemented that no, they can hang with the two of the best tag teams in the world. I think the Bucks and FTR are the two best doing it right now. This to me was more about them proving that they're on the same playing field, which I think was a nice sub story to have come out of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned that the tag team division is so strong, and I don't care how many times they wrestle, it still feels like a couple singles guys that were thrown together. And I think Luchasaurus deserves a singles push. I mean, every time he's a big guy that does amazing moves.
I'm wondering if when Christian turns heel, it might be the end of Jurassic Express, because I mean, nobody screams TNT title level star like Jungle Boy, and yeah. Luchasaurus. You're right. The fact that he can do a moonsault at his size and he's doing all these insane things. He Luchasaurus is a great name for him. He can do some incredibly acrobatic things as such a big guy. He could be such a serviceable hand in other ways. I think you're right about that. But this I thought was a really fun match. I loved some of the stuff that the Jacksons were doing in this. The strengths and weaknesses of each of them are completely balanced out by each other. I think Nick Jackson is so great in the ring. and Matt Jackson has like a little bit stronger of a personality and is incredible at selling. So it's just like a really fun offset of each other. It's like they're brothers or something.
Well, one of the best things was when they turned heel. Not that they weren't bad. When AEW first started and they were phases and stuff, like, not that it was bad, but it's like that really gave them a direction, and that slimy heel kind of thing. We just mentioned that the roster is so bloated, but I really want the Briscoes to come in. Oh my God. I was watching Ring of Honor a few years ago, and like a big feud was the Young Bucks versus the Briscoes, and they just tore it down every single time they fought. It was so much fun. That would be so much fun.
Synonymous with Ring of Honor. They got offers from WWE and turned them down to stay in Ring of Honor. I think you can't not bring them in, especially like they've been kind of feuding, but not in the ring with FTR so much that I think it's inevitable that they will come in as a part of the Ring of Honor adoption process a little bit.
We just had a pay-per-view without FTR, and FTR, you could argue, is the best tag team in the world. But like that's
for me, they are. Yeah.
So that's what this roster is. And I think I saw some of their tweets. It's like, hey, why are we at home? Like, why are we not wrestling?
They're such a blast.
Yeah. Then the ladder match: Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Christian Cage. I didn't have a lot of expectations because, okay, ladder match with 6 people. What are we going to do? And then the people involved, some of them are big, but I don't care. I need more Keith Lee in my life. I'm so happy he's in AEW. You would have to be a moron to mess up that guy, which is exactly what happened in WWE. But still, you just look at the guy. Just look at him. Just look at anything he does. It's amazing. You just he's plug and play. Just let him go.
The athleticism and his size are like impossible for me to wrap my brain around the fact that those can be married. And what I love with him is when there's a guy his size that can do what he can do, as far as like, I can chain wrestle, but also throw people into like the 8th row. There's always this temptation that they're a monster and that there's this huge guy, so they have to be a heel and they have to be intimidating. He is one of the most naturally likable people in all of wrestling. It is impossible to not want to root for that guy. Like in my opinion, like he seems like somebody you gotta get behind. And I love that he got the reception that he did, that he is going to be pushed as a face here. Like, I was so excited to see him on my screen. This was a fun ladder match. My favorite spots in it, I did not think were going to be Orange Cassidy spots, but here we are. Him skinning the cat onto a ladder to try and grab the brass ring was absolutely insane. Him doing his vicious striking, with the 3 hosses in the ring was such a fun spot. I only had 2 complaints in this, which were, at one point the ring was clear and Wardlow just could have climbed the ladder and won.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like commentary tried to sell it on like, no, he wants to make sure the big dudes are like put away. And we got a really fun spot of who was it? It was Keith Lee and I think Hobbs going through the stage, which was a fantastic spot to watch. But like logically, I was like, dude, turn around and climb the ladder. Like that's stupid. Yeah. And then, Ricky Starks took a very scary bump on a surgically repaired neck. Which it looks like he's okay, thank goodness. But that was a really, really rough spot. He also had a spear through the ladder in this match. Like, I'm the biggest Ricky Starks mark in the world. Really, really creative offense with that guy. But overall, I thought it was pretty good, especially considering like who was in there. You're right, and that it was going to make for an interesting dynamic, because it was like, can half these guys climb a ladder without breaking it? Like, my God, them wishboning the ladder was hilarious too.
Yes, that was funny.
Was really, really fun.
Orange Cassidy, it's amazing you would think that's a one-trick pony, or it's like, okay, we get the joke. He's so much more than that, and he still does it, but he does so many more other things, and it just works. Just that's a real credit to him.
Well, it helps that because he's very good in the ring, he's always in control of the joke. Like, he can turn on the gas at any moment because he's a very, very good in-ring wrestler. And the other part of it is there's always the justification that he's trying to do it to get under people's skin. So I think that keeps it from being one note, because it's also a mind game. It's not like he's just being apathetic for the sake of being apathetic. He's trying to drive his opponent's batshit. And I think that really, really helps, because it just adds a layer there that I think otherwise would feel very, very one note. But him being great in the ring and him playing mind games, I really want him to turn heel. I think an apathetic dick would be such a fun move.
Oh my goodness, that would be interesting.
They did with Bailey, right? Like, she was a hugger, and there was this heel side of her that we were waiting for this whole time. Like, I think somebody being apathetic and suddenly not caring about their best friends, and like that guy, it's easy to hate the apathetic guy.
Right.
When everyone has all of their self-worth wrapped up in these titles, the guy that doesn't give a shit, like, man, that could get really fun, in my opinion.
I think there was some interview last week where he's like, you want me to climb a ladder? I don't want to do that.
He's so great. Half the time he doesn't know what the stipulations are or why he's there. Yeah. He's like, what is this? Okay,
great. And then Wardlow, hey, it is hard to create stars and build them and build them up. They have built up Wardlow perfectly. Boy, if they get people behind him, it's just perfect storytelling, perfect booking, the way they're handling Wardlow.
It's true. Him and Hook, I feel like I've seen grow up right in front of our eyes on different timelines. I think having Wardlow with MJF is just so smart, because MJF is already so outstanding at what he does as far as storytelling. I think you've seen Wardlow grow tremendously in his time in the Pinnacle, and I've had kind of like mixed thoughts on the Pinnacle, because it just seems like, are you a thing or aren't you sometimes? But like, everyone in it I love, and I think, I mean, Wardlow was just this like enormous presence that stood there, and now his facial expressions do so much storytelling. It's so much fun. He was absolutely the right choice, because I think we'll see it later, him turning on MJF is going to just be expedited by this potential title shot, which I think is such a great story and so much fun. And they really, really have done a great job of they're good at turning on the gas with people when they need to, and they're good at letting guys who are a little bit greener or newer mature at the rate that they need to mature to get fans behind them or against them, and at an appropriate pace. So I'm 100% with you. The reaction that he got later in the night, we are ready to see Wardlow kick the shit out of MJF, and that is going to be really fun.
Yeah. For the TBS Championship, Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti. We knew Jade was going to win. This was still okay. Now it was funny when they faced off last week and Jade kissed her on the forehead, because nothing says disrespect like the only other thing you could do with a shorter person is like pat him on the head or something like that.
Yeah,
it's very disrespectful, but I don't know what kissing on the lips.
My goodness.
Besides drive every guy crazy.
I was gonna say they should have put that on the buy-in. The pay-per-view guys would have been through the roof, my friend. This match was only okay for me. I felt like it only had about 8 minutes or so on a very, very loaded card. Coming off of a high energy ladder match like that is also tough. Jade looks like a star. Her charisma is incredible. There's nobody in the world that looks like her. She's great with that. I'm an in-ring dork, and she isn't there yet on the in-ring stuff. She shouldn't be. She's had 30 matches doing this. Not everyone's going to be Hook. It's good. Like, that's an insane anomaly. But even style-wise, compatibly, it just seemed like they were just a step off this whole time. Loved Tay using the pile driver and the frog splash in this, so that was really, really cool. I felt like toward the end was when they started to click, unfortunately. But her next win is going to be 30, and I think you're going to see her say, I went through this entire roster, nobody can touch me, and we're going to get a debut of either like a Tony Storm or an Ember Moon / Athena, somebody from the outside world that comes and hands her her first loss and grabs that title.
She's girl Goldberg, and I'm okay with that.
If that's your thing, like they're doing a great job at making her seem like a star. I'm just like, I'm a mark. I'm a dork. I like I love in-ring stuff, but that doesn't mean I can't like completely see her value as far as what she offers to this company. And I think she has a very, very bright future.
Yeah. I mean, we're watching her progress. We're watching, it's like in-ring training, in-ring, like we're just watching her get better.
With
it's
Bryan
really cool.
Danielson. She's not, there's no way that she's not going to be fantastic by the end
right
of this. Like she's training with one of the best, if not the best to ever do it. So
yeah. Then we have CM Punk, MJF, and dog collar match. My goodness, the build up to this, I mean, basically everything that these two have done has been amazing, but that MJF promo where he basically made us question everything that we thought about everything. It's like what? Even CM Punk is like, am I the bad guy here? What's going on?
I loved it so much.
Psychological warfare. And then CM Punk coming out to his Ring of Honor music, which, you know, I didn't know at the time, but you know, you find out real quick. It's like, wow. Oh, and that promo Punk did right before, like after he got bloodied up, it showed up on Rampage. Oh, so good.
So great.
So good. You knew this was going to be great. And then, you know, the Wardlow thing at the end was perfect. Like, oh, I don't know where it is. I guess I lost it. And then he gives it to Punk. That was just perfect.
Such a fantastic story. I love MJF. I've loved him before this feud, but this feud brought out something in him that we haven't gotten to see yet. And I don't think it's because he didn't have it in him. I think he proved that if he wanted to be a babyface tomorrow, you could do that with him. A lot of that story was very real. He's talked about it before, about getting quarters thrown at him as a Jewish stereotype, like by people on his football team when he was growing up. A lot of that story was very real. So that's probably why it felt very real. And to basically give him an origin story, like he's a supervillain that explains his actions but doesn't excuse them. It was really, for me, this felt so much more vicious because he had elicited some sympathy, which is normally he's just chicken shit, right?
Right.
So him eliciting sympathy before this made this so much more personal, so much more vicious. If you're a dork like me and you watched CM Punk's Raven and him dog collar match, you knew that a lot of the things MJF were saying were callbacks to Punk's promos in that match, about being the snake and the devil, hiding in plain sight, like things like that were direct callbacks to that match. MJF playing Punk's music and Punk having that scouted, I thought was one of the most creative things I've seen in wrestling. The amount of storytelling that happened before they set foot in the ring is just insane. Punk came out in his Ring of Honor gym shorts, like they looked exactly the same as his Ring of Honor gym shorts. Punk's turning heel, I think, against Adam Page. I think that's where we're going next. But this has been like, for me, Punk was my favorite guy since I started watching in real time. So him coming back was so incredible for me and emotional for me as a fan. And then the Kingston feud brought out something different. And now this MJF feud is bringing out something different. Like that Kingston feud was, they were just beating the hell out of each other for 10 minutes. Like that was nuts. And then this one was a little bit more traditional of a wrestling match, but it was a freaking dog collar match and it was bloody. Like his feuds have now marked something completely different on the card than anything else that's on the card. And I just think that's so special. And it's a sign that he is really one of the best to do it, because like it just, there's nothing on the card that felt like this in either situation. And I think that's so unique. And I think seeing MJF grow through this feud was so awesome. The Wardlow spot that you mentioned, for Wardlow to come down with his ring, not be able to find it, and then to just place it on the ring apron. Didn't hand it directly to Punk. Like, it was so, and there was also not a moment where MJF and Punk were like fighting for it, which I think was good too, because there's less excuses that way. Like, Wardlow wanted Punk to have it, but he didn't hand it directly to him. I thought was so good. And then Punk making sure that MJF knew he had the ring was like such a great set of a bitch move. This was bloody. It was uncomfortable, as a dog collar match is supposed to be. They need to be careful about their blading. I thought Punk was going to pass out halfway through this. It was nuts.
Yeah.
So it was like,
at some point that's going to happen. You can bleed too much. You can lose too much blood.
You sure can. And he bladed heavily the past 2 weeks, but what a match, what a story, what a great story that we got to see out of them. And I feel like in both situations the right guy won. Like, MJF going over in Chicago is a huge deal, and I think here, Wardlow being used to expedite everything so gently and so cleanly. It wasn't like a ton of interference, it was just a gesture that's going to send MJF spiraling in an entirely different way. And I think we're going to see Punk start to turn heel, which is my favorite thing. Heel Punk is my favorite thing in the world.
It's just fun to see Punk have fun.
It's nuts. It's so fun.
I guess there was when, like, after Dynamite, when he's being carried to the back, apparently, the fans are saying like he had the biggest grin on his face, and he's covered in blood, and he just got destroyed. He's just so happy.
There was a picture going around, and he's just grinning like an idiot, and not like a maniacal heel idiot. Like, I'm so happy that we delivered this story, and I'm covered in blood right now. Grin on his face, like, so much fun. And he got really, really emotional in the scrum afterwards too. If you're a fan, which I'm assuming you are, if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to go back and watch his media scrum, because he was very, very emotional in it, and it was really compelling stuff.
The line about I'm glad that Tony got the tape library, and it's not some tab on some shitty app or something like that. What a great line.
Shitty app that doesn't work. He's like crying, like, because he's so emotional about Ring of Honor, because in some ways it's the house that Punk built, in some ways it's the house that everybody there built. But he's like crying because he knows that footage of him is going to be in good hands, and he just takes a swipe at WWE, saying it's not going to be on like some shitty app that doesn't work. Is hilarious to me. And then later he had made some other comment, I forget what it was, but he took another swipe at WWE, like kind of gently, like very, very funny stuff. I was like, oh, if Bret Hart is constantly taking hits at Hogan, Punk will be like, WWE is Punk's Hogan for the rest of his life in this really, really fun way.
I have friends that aren't wrestling fans or whatever, and they say like, what's this AEW thing, and like one of them said, you mean that thing, isn't CM Punk there? I mean, having CM Punk is huge for AEW, and it's nice that he's not just resting on his laurels and resting on the past. Like, he's just creating new legacies and new things, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to see.
That was the big thing, was, can he do it without having a chip on his shoulder? And yeah, he can. I think people forget, like, I loved Best in the World Punk because it was the most cathartic thing to happen as a wrestling fan since I had started watching from that point on. But my favorite version of Punk was Straight Edge Society Punk. Like, he's a master storyteller. He doesn't need to be railing against the machine. And I think we're getting to see that now, and getting to see him, like you said, genuinely happy is so much fun. So much fun. But not for long. You're going to see a heel Punk soon, I think.
oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And then for the AEW Women's Championship, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Thunder Rosa. Okay, they just botched this. Everything about this was a mess. You had such a gold mine because of what happened a year ago, and I actually thought that their match a year ago, it was almost exactly a year ago, was maybe the match of the year. And they kept it was just on the back burner. It's like, okay, you could always come back to it. but then the buildup wasn't good. The match wasn't good. The psychology wasn't that good. There's just a lot of problems with this. I think it's gonna get fixed in a week or two, but still, this did not go great. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, and it's not on the fault of the wrestlers. There was actually some really good chain wrestling in this. And Rosa slapped the shit out of her at one point. But the outside interference stuff with Britt is so played out. What you were alluding to sounds like what I think is going to happen, which is in San Antonio, Texas. Thunder Rosa's like home this side of the country. AEW will be 1 day removed from the 1 year anniversary of their Lights Out match. And I think you're going to probably get a stipulation match. I would love for it to be a Texas death match because they're going to be in Texas. A steel cage match to keep all the interference away could be a great blow off. And I think it'll be Rose's time with the title. So I think I'll appreciate this more, but I'm just so done with the, like, Thunder Rosa has backup now and is smart enough to know that Britt is
exactly. Why didn't you bring her?
Yeah.
Why didn't you bring your friend? You knew there was going to be interference.
Justify why she didn't show up, right? Like we talked about that a little bit last night of, have Jamie Hayter take out Mercedes Martinez with a pipe or whatever, like have some piece of storytelling. I'm of the belief that maybe the ending of this match got switched. I think it's very possible that they changed the booking because they realized that San Antonio and the Lights Out match, like maybe they were gonna do a blow off with Thunder Rosa as already champion or something, but like some of this felt thrown together, like the fact that she's randomly, like if you lose normally in AEW, you go to the bottom of the rankings, you have to work your way back up. She's just facing Layla Hirsch for a number 1 contenders match and then going to, get back in the title picture just by happenstance. And they didn't even need to do that. They could have just said, Britt's a cheater, I want a rematch, and there you go. Yeah. So this was a mess for me. I don't think it's the fault of the performers that this was a mess. I think you saw some good chain wrestling in there for sure. But yeah, the storytelling here was not great. The payoff in 2 weeks from now, I think, is going to be an incredibly special moment if it goes the direction that we're thinking.
Wins and losses matter, except when they don't.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the standings. I wish they would just call it a heat chart or something instead.
Just do rankings or something like that. Don't forget about the standing stuff. But
yeah, it doesn't. You can't be half in that world. You either gotta abide by it. That was something Ring of Honor was great at. Was divisions and records determined like everything that happened there. It was so great. You can't just pick and choose when that's the case though.
So I saw it in the theater and it was about a half-hour drive home, and I had you and Alex to accompany me to on my drive home, and it's like, okay, cool. And then it's like, okay, I know they go a little long or whatever, but then eventually I fell asleep like a normal human being, and then
we are not normal human beings.
Thank you.
Alex and I are not normal human beings. That is a scientific
You went
fact.
3 hours. 3 hours.
In our defense, it was a 5-hour show, and we do 2 hours for a 2-hour show. So this was way ahead of the curve for us. And if William Regal is going to show up, like that's going to be like an hour of the show. Alex does the best William Regal impression I've ever heard. But yeah, it was a long night last night, but part of it was the fact that Alex and I never shut up. Part of it was the fact it was a 5-hour show, and part of it was people were just so damn excited to talk about this, man. Like we got so many chats that rolled in from people who just were so hyped about what AEW presented. So yeah, 3 hours is a very long time, but sadly is like ahead of the curve for Alex and I.
Hey, I commented. It's like whenever I saw Regal, the first thing I was like, oh, Alex is gonna have fun with this.
That was one of the first thoughts in my mind too. The second thought was Ring of Honor is going to give us old NXT.
Yeah.
And with Regal at the helm, like basically NXT was ROH with the budget and William Regal, and now we're gonna have that in AEW. And I was like, well, it's very funny to me that AEW is gonna both give us their product and what was their biggest competitor.
Right. Yeah, Moxley versus Danielson. We knew it was going to be good. It was good. Alex was where he said this was a dog collar match without the dog collar.
Yeah. You knew they were going to beat the hell out of each other. You knew they were going to bleed. You knew they weren't really going to get further than 5 feet apart from each other. I was of the belief that this and the dog collar match needed to be at opposite ends of the card. I think this suffered from like an emotional investment in the pay-per-view and crowd reaction standpoint. This suffered from card placement in a really big way. But what we got at the end of it, who gives a shit? Like, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this match probably because I felt like I was exhaling and not as like fully locked in as I should have been, because what I saw was great and the storytelling was great. The blows that they were taking and the one-upsmanship. But the biggest thing in this story is now that we got William Regal showing up, not just showing up, slapping the shit out of these young men and telling them to get along.
It was so cute. It was so much like dad coming in, like two brothers fighting, and then and he smacks Moxley, and Danielson's like, ha ha, daddy likes me better, ha ha, you're in trouble, and he smacks Danielson.
And Regal just walking in there like he'd been in AEW for the past 15 years, like he has his career there. Not like an ounce of uncertainty with what he was there to do, the story that he was in, the story that he was telling, the magnitude of the event. Like, he walked in there and felt like he should be there immediately, and it's because it was not in any way for him about him. He was there to get his sons back into shape and to get them getting along. The magnitude of what that move means for us as fans is, like, I think so great. I'm so happy he gets to work at the second biggest wrestling promotion in the world, because he, when he was released by WWE, the outpouring of love of, there would be no Becky Lynch without me. There'd be no FTR without Regal. There would be no, like, the amount of people that were just like, he's responsible for making my career. My career was such a tribute to the legacy that he had there. I thought he would come in. What a fun way for him to come in, man. Like, what a fun entrance into AEW.
And he is such a great on-screen personality too, that just like nothing says like authority figure like a dude in a British accent.
Oh my God. If you asked if Alex, he's the only good one there ever was. And I have ones that I liked, but William Regal to me has by far been the best, because I said this last night too. He's the only one that I feel like acknowledged that this is still a workplace. Like, that the ring is where the combat happens, but there are rules that are meant to be followed, and you don't get to act like an idiot. Like, he was really, really, and if you do, there's consequences for your actions. Like, he was so good with that. I'm just so thrilled, and I can't imagine. I know Tony Khan said in the scrum yesterday that he's booking ROH, but I can't imagine William Regal is not going to have a tremendous influence on what happens there. It makes too much sense if ROH is going to essentially be your developmental program. But I thought he was going to end up in AEW. I thought maybe he'd bring Joe. I had no thoughts of him entering this storyline, and what a perfect way to do it, because he really did, mentor Danielson and Mox both. Like, this was so much fun. And shout out to Danielson for dropping his name 2 weeks ago. Like, Danielson has been leaving these little hints that you don't realize are there at the time, and then something happens and you're like, oh, that son of a bitch told us exactly what was going to happen. It turns out, like, so fun.
I hope Tony Khan, I don't know, gets some sleep. It's like, okay, you're gonna book AEW, and now you're gonna book Ring of Honor. What, dude? Look out! You Take a walk.
He's like doing the darks too. I think dark is gonna have to get consolidated into one program. But he like produces that now too, since Max Caster got himself in trouble.
Yeah, right.
I'm wondering if producing just means you're running all this shit by me now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he says he has the book. I'm wondering A, how long that will last. B, that seems like a really good place for Cody to re-enter wrestling, to be honest. I think that could be if WWE is jerking him around, or he decided not to sign there for his own accord. If he wanted to, Cody back in ROH in some way could be really fun. I think to start it for cohesiveness of the product, it definitely makes sense to have Tony Khan do that. I just wonder how long, realistically, sustainably, that can last.
We could spend another hour talking about the whole Cody Rhodes thing. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Like, how he helped create this whole thing, and then it kind of outgrew him and or pushed him out or whatever. It's just an amazing situation. But if he were to come back either as a heel going against Tony, because we could use real life stuff, or as like you said, like basically running Ring of Honor, and just development or stuff. So many things you could do there. We'll see what happens. It's why I like wrestling.
It's the first major real life implication things outside of the Punk return, which was all feel good. That's very, very interesting, and the fact that he hasn't shown up in WWE makes that very interesting. Interesting. So we'll see. It's a very fun time to be a wrestling fan if you don't work yourself into a shoot here.
Then we had AHFO versus Darby Allin, Sammy, Guevara, and Sting. You knew Darby and Sammy together. That they're going to do good stuff. Andrade's, doing great stuff, and it's and Sting was going to do something. It's okay, Sting, okay, whatever. He goes through 3 tables. My God.
From a balcony. He's 62. He's a 62-year-old man. Alex kept losing it. He was like, the Eisenhower administration is when this man was born. This man was born during the Eisenhower administration. And he's diving through 3 tables. I'll say this. This match was meant to be fun, high energy, chaos before the main event. Perfect palate cleanser. The Spanish fly off of crashing into the tables into the stage was one of the scariest, most insane, incredible things I've ever seen. And Sting, these are the 2 spots that everyone is going to remember from this. Sting diving through 3 tables onto Andrade. I felt like that spot, if you're going to do it with a 62-year-old man, was done as safely and well as it could have been. He hit the fleshy part of the table, and he landed on Andrade, so his fall was as broken as it can be. It was a low balcony that he dove off of. He's 62, my guy. What are you doing, you maniac? I love it.
William Regal, who we just talked about, as the elderly father figure, authority figure who hasn't been wrestling for 10 years, is 10 years younger than Sting. And Sting is still wrestling.
10 years?
William Regal is 53.
I knew he was younger. I didn't realize because he has this seasoned older gentleman about him, and Sting is 9 years older, 10 years older than him, diving through 3 tables. My God, what a fun business.
Yeah. When the Spanish fly thing happened, it's always interesting to see what the refs do. The ref immediately ran over, and it's did anybody die? You okay? Did you live?
I thought they were dead. I was like, they're dead. There's no way.
and then still, it's are you sure you're not dead? Are you still okay? Okay. Well,
do you know where you are if you're
right?
Alive? Yeah. What are just insanity?
The worst was, I think it was Sammy against Matt Hardy. a year or two ago
Oh,
when
yeah, that was
that
bad.
sick bump, like, oh, this did not go right. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. So you're right. It was a palate cleanser. Then we have the main event, Adam versus Adam, and shout out to the crowd. They were so funny. There was a chant at one point. It's like, let's go, Adam. Adam sucks. So many of those types of things. It was a very smart crowd. I knew Adam Page was going to win, but still, we also knew, like, with their history and just their abilities, you knew it was going to be really good. But at one point, I actually thought Adam Cole was going to pull it off.
Yeah, there were a couple near falls in this that were fantastic. It's nice when I was pretty sure Page was going to retain, but there were at least seeds of doubt that made this very, very interesting. And Adam Cole really helped sow those seeds during this match. Like, in my head, Page is coming out champion, but there was a possibility at least that Cole was going to win because there's so much happening with the title picture. What if Kenny Omega comes back and wants to take it from Cole? Like, there's so many possibilities, right? But this match was fantastic. And I know some people have been a little overwhelmed by the Page reign. I think because the 2-year chase for it was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then the Danielson feud was so unbelievable. Kind of felt like it got lost there for a second. The Texas Death Match was great, but didn't have a strong story going into it. This had a medium story going into it, but what happened in the ring, I felt like, what a great way to close out the pay-per-view. What a special match. Both of these guys worked their asses off. Storytelling in every second of this, even in the moments where there were space, you could just see them analyzing and calculating what's next. And they know each other so well. Just really, really, really strong stuff. Like, I felt like the right man won, but you're right. And that Adam Cole showed why he's just one of the best doing this right now. Like, the amount of times he made you bite at the fact that he might win were fantastic. I loved this main event. I thought it was a really, really great match. I'm glad Page won. Sounds like we might be getting Punk versus Page, which is very, very interesting. I would love to see that, and I think you're gonna see Punk turn heel for it. So I think that could be really fun. But I thought a great way to close out this pay-per-view. Minimal interference, like we see Red Dragon come down and then get chased off by the Dark Order, considering they could have had Omega come back as a presence, considering Jay White is there, considering the Elite was there. Like, they could have done so much storytelling that would have made sense, but I feel like omitting that made this like so much more special, because I like when it's clean and simple storytelling, and that the champion didn't need a ton of help. Like, he should be a strong champion. So I just loved that.
Hey, Thunder Rosa, take note. When your opponent has interference and has friends, you bring friends too to fight those friends. So
bring your friends down.
Yeah. One of the dumbest things, I mean, most of wrestling Twitter is dumb anyway, but one of the dumbest things is the criticism of Adam Cole. They said, I can't believe he left WWE to go to this. Like, what do you mean? wait, the main event of a pay-per-view for the world title? What are you talking about?
I think people are dorks, but I also think part of that comes from I think if you don't watch the product, what you see is like gifs, right? And you see the Jacksons kissing him on both cheeks, and you see a lot of the silliness that unfolded. You see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man things. Right. You see a lot of the goofiness if you don't watch the product, and those people aren't going to be watching the product because they stand with WWE. So when you see the goofiness of the Elite only in GIF form, people want to view it as a step down. But make no doubt about it, last night, like, Sirius has a heart attack, as they say. He was fantastic in that match. It was an important match. It was an important story. And he's working in the highest levels of the company. So I'm happy for him. And I think I feel like both of these guys really showed out in that main event. And yes, the crowd was hysterical with the dueling Adam chants. Oh my God, what a riot.
and
Let's
he
go,
doesn't have
Adam.
yeah
Both these
Like,
Adams.
and he doesn't have a dad bod. Stop with that.
No, people. What happens is a wrestler like exhales, and then someone grabs a screenshot of it, and they're like, "Oh, look how fat he is." He was like, "Yeah, because they're taking a breath." Like people are just dorks.
It's crazy. This is just such a I mean, very few complaints. This was just such a really good pay-per-view, top to bottom. You know, it had a lot to live up to. It was a stacked card, and for the most part, it delivered. So,
yeah, these past 3 pay-per-views have just been, from All Out to Full Gear to this, have just been absolutely insane. Like, I don't know how you continue to outdo yourselves in these ways, but I had said that I felt like All Out was insane from the surprises. Full Gear was insane for what happened in the ring, and I was like, I think this is going to be a little bit of both. I didn't think Regal was going to be the insane surprise, but what a perfect one. What a perfect one to get.
Yeah, I thought Kenny Omega would come in at the end, but I guess at the buy-in they teased that, you know, that he wasn't coming or whatever, but still.
That's why I did think he was coming,
though. Right, yeah.
Because of Don Callis showing up at the buy-in saying like Kenny Omega's not going to be here. I was like, oh, Kenny Omega's definitely going to be here then.
Right.
But
right.
he had to wait for one of his surgeries because things are just like so backed up from COVID, so we won't be seeing him for a while, I think. But when we do, oh baby.
the dude was putting on world quality matches with all kinds of injuries and vertigo. Absolutely amazing. Hey, take your time, man. Get right. That was amazing that he was doing that.
With vertigo.
Yeah.
Like, not to mention, like, I don't have a healthy stomach or arms or legs or eyes or hair. Like, I just, like, people can't exist in their day with vertigo, much less wrestle with vertigo.
Right.
Like, what the hell
You're
is wrong with that, man?
dizzy, yeah.
And to one of the best in the world to be doing it in the ring, like you said, like not just getting away with it, like a world-class wrestler with all that. So my God, what's a healthy Kenny Omega gonna bring us? I can't even imagine.
Oh man. All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is always a blast.
You were talking in the middle of the night for 3 hours, and you still come on here in the middle of the day. I appreciate it so much.
If you were like, "Hey, can we record at 9 a.m.?" I would have been like,
"No,
time zone, pal." Because no.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. I always love talking with you and interacting with you. And I appreciate it, and there's nothing I want to do more than talk wrestling, so it's good that that's the thing I'm doing this on.
Awesome. All right, hey, I'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.